Welcome to the Otsumami Party Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ian.
I'm Saya.
We both grew up in different countries. Where are you from, Saya?
I'm from Japan. Where are you from, Ian?
I'm from the US. In this podcast, we'll discuss fun little interesting things about vastly different cultures, daily lives living in different cities, and other fun, interesting topics.
During our time together, we invite you to grab some otsumami or finger food of your own and join us for a fun, cozy time. Enjoy!
Oh, Saya. Welcome to the Otsumami Party. Do you want some Grey Poupon?
Sure.
Grey Poupon? That is just mustard. I don't know what Grey Poupon goes on. Prosciutto on a piece of bread.
Sure.
Okay. Welcome to Otsumami Party.
Welcome, everybody. What was Groupon, Ian?
Grey Poupon? It's a type of mustard. There are these commercials that were like really fancy.
Okay.
That somebody like really rich would pull up, like in traffic, for example, like a limousine would pull up next to a regular car, and the guy would roll down his window and ask the car, he's like, "Do you have any Grey Poupon?" And that would be the commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that an actual thing? Like actual product?
Yeah. I used to get it.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, you should look it up.
Ah! Yeah, I've seen this. It's famous, but I didn't even try to pronounce.
Yeah. So I used to see those commercials when I was a kid, and my mom would always go out and get Grey Poupon.
Nice.
Whereas they say Grey Poupon.
Grey Poupon.
Yeah, I guess it's French.
Yeah,
But
French. And looks French on the lid.
Oh yeah. It's actually quite delicious. I like Dijon mustard. Are you eating anything?
I am eating the hummus and chips.
Hummus and chips. That sounds delicious.
Yep.
What kind of chips? Like pita chips?
No, just tortilla chips that I have.
Still very delicious.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I decided not to eat anything because I just had dinner. So I needed to drop by my friend's house because I needed help with changing my brakes.
Yeah.
On my car. And on the way, because he was teaching, I needed to be somewhere for a little bit so I can, so I didn't show up at his house, an hour early or whatever. So I decided to eat dinner somewhere. And I went and ate Mexican food, and I had birria tacos.
Nice.
They were delicious. For lunch today, I made myself a rice dish. I made some white rice. Mm-hmm. I cooked up some chicken. I put some tonkatsu sauce and salt and pepper, and then put that over the rice, and over everything I put a little bit of Kewpie mayo.
Nice.
And it was a delicious lunch.
Yeah. If anybody who is listening this and who does not know about the Kewpie mayo, you gotta try this. You probably can find it in the Asian market. It's a mayonnaise, but it's a Japanese mayonnaise.
So the difference between American mayonnaise and Japanese mayonnaise, the Kewpie mayo, is that the U.S. mayonnaise uses whole eggs, like egg whites and all that, whereas Kewpie mayo only uses the egg yolks. And that's what creates the yellow color and the kind of creamier texture. And I find that the flavor is closer to like deviled eggs, which I really, really like.
Yeah, I wasn't like a huge fan of mayonnaise growing up, but I noticed the difference of mayonnaise when I came here to the States from I think like almost all Japanese family has a Kewpie mayo. I don't know. Probably like there is another company that makes mayonnaise in Japan, but Kewpie mayo is just too big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like really big, and we have like Kewpie mayo. I don't know, like Kewpie mayo's cooking channel. Like they have like a 3 minutes cooking sponsored by Kewpie, and they have like other kinds of sauce and like condiment. Yeah.
I see.
It's very big.
That's crazy. I mean, like, as somebody who grew up on American mayo and was never like super fond of it, like Kewpie mayo was a life changer for me.
When did you get it for the first time?
The first time we got it together, that was like what, 3-4 years ago?
Oh, did we find it in the Asian market?
Yeah, something like that. And I found it and you're like, oh, yeah, that's Japanese mayo. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And because I asked you if it tasted any different, you said, yeah. So I wanted to try it. And I like became obsessed with it.
Yeah. I think I've told you this Japanese, but it's not for the word of the day, but people who loves mayonnaise and like put the mayonnaise on top of everything, like on anything, called mayora in Japanese.
That's me.
Like, yeah, definitely it's you.
Well, I don't do it on everything. Just 98% of it.
That's pretty much mayora.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's what I had for lunch. But right now, I am so full, I decided not to eat anything. But I am drinking a cup of coffee from Colombia. My friend came back from Colombia and brought me some coffee.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. And it's interesting, like, the differences between coffee there and coffee here, or really any other place. There's so much variety in Colombia. You know, right now I am drinking coffee from his hometown or his home region or whatever, and it doesn't have any bitter flavor at all.
Wow. I'm very curious.
Well, actually, you might find it bitter. But, you know, it's not like you scrunch up your face and yell because of how bitter it is.
It's kind of funny that, like, like many coffees here, if you go to the coffee store, cafe, if you go to the cafe and then, like, try to get a bag of the coffee, it's always there, like, it's from Brazil, from Colombia, in a blah, 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 in a country, but, like, which part of that country?
Right.
Now, right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the coffee he brought back tells you which region it is. He even brought a bag of coffee that was picked only by women. It was like picked and roasted only by women.
What does that mean, though?
I have no idea. He just told me that, and I was like, oh, cool.
Or is that, or what?
I drank it, and I'm like, ooh, I feel sexy now.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
But it just says like, oh yeah, it's picked only, or it's made only by women.
Yeah, is it like probably more like the company run by women, kind of.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe like supporting.
Or like the roaster, at least the distributor.
Yeah.
Whatever, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting.
But yeah, I am drinking some Colombian coffee from his hometown. This is not the one that's made only by women. But
sure,
it's quite delicious.
Nice.
But you mentioned the word of the day, so why don't we go ahead and go there, because I'm curious about what you have.
Sounds good. So, the word of the day today is お袋の味.
What is it?
お袋の
お袋
の
の
味.
味.
Yeah.
お袋の味.
Yeah. So, お袋 is one of the way to call your mom.
Okay.
So, like, people changes how you call your mom and dad as you grow up. Like, I think in English, you know, small kids starts calling mommy and daddy, and then, like, it became mom, dad. And, like, if it's a more official or a little formal, like, you say mother, and my father, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, like, my mom was, or, like, my mommy was, you know? So it's one of the way, and especially, I think it's more like specifically for the grown man calling his mother usually calls ofukuro. Or like not to like call his mom directly, like when they're in front of each other. They may not call ofukuro not so often.
Okay.
But like if you are explaining or talking about your mom to somebody else, your friends or something, like my ofukuro said something, blah blah blah. You know,
Oh,
but
I
that's
see.
typically used by men. But anyways, that's mom, and then no is like sort of like of, and then aji is a taste. So it means like the taste of your mom's cooking.
Ah, okay. I was very
Don't
confused.
lick your mom. Not the taste of your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that okay. Okay.
So that implies the cooking. So, you know, well, back in the days, like usually like mother cooks and then father works. That kind of, you know,
Yeah,
the culture.
traditionally.
Traditionally. So the taste of your mom's cooking is like iconic and they're like unique to everybody. And they're like you misses when you leave your home, right? Like your parents' house and stuff.
Right.
So that's what we call it. And then sometimes, like if somebody is introducing a restaurant and then like the restaurant is kind of like traditional and like kind of, I don't know, like homey feeling, and then the food was good, more like home kind of food, not like fancy cuisine or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
The reporter might say like, oh, that is more like ofukuro no aji. So
Is there a like word kind of like that for father?
like ofukuro version.
Or like the dad's cooking or like
Oh, that's taste, kind of?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, we do not have a word for that. But
Because that could be scary.
Why?
Like the dad's cooking is like opposite of cooking of mom.
oh,
It
so
could be
like it
nasty.
tastes bad,
Yeah, maybe.
kind of? Is that what you mean?
Could be, yeah. I don't
Or
know.
not good enough?
Maybe.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. I was just wondering if there was like the cooking of dad or something.
No, not that I think of. But people who calls their mom ofukuro would probably call dad oyaji. So like mommy and daddy are the same level in the ashuran of the way you call your parents, and mom and dad is the same level. Mother and father is the same level. I think ofukuro and oyaji could be kind of a pair.
I see.
Yeah. So, or like, yeah. Well, oyaji could mean like just a guy, like a middle-aged guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
The taste of my mom's cooking.
Yeah.
It's like profound.
Yeah. I mean, like, my mom asks me what I want to eat when I, go home. And then, like, I list things up, right? Like, my favorite stuff from mom's cooking. And those could be, like, my ofukuro no aji.
So, what are some of your favorite dishes?
One of that is chicken wings cooked with, like, it's little, like, teriyaki, but it's more like cooked with like probably like soy sauce and like I'm not sure what the exact ingredient, but like with ginger and honey. So that's that. It's like almost like I can eat it forever.
I see.
I also liked banya chowder.
Okay.
Banya chowder. It's like the creamy. No, it doesn't have to be creamy, but like the oily sauce. And then, like, you dip your the veggies, like sticked veggies,
Oh, okay.
like fondue, but not cheese.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably Italian.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever had it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's common to
But
have
those
it
sound
in.
delicious.
It is. Yeah, it's been my favorite for a long time, like since I was in the kindergarten, probably. Yeah, so those are like some stuff. And roast beef. She has like a special good sauce that goes really well with the beef. Yeah, I think those are my usual go-to. And those are also my like birthday dishes when I was a
I
kid.
see.
Because I didn't like cake at all. Like I don't like the cream and stuff. Especially when I was a kid. Nowadays, like I eat a little bit. But when I was a kid, I couldn't. So like I usually don't have much cake for
Right.
birthday in a family celebrating. So I just always like got some of my favorite food instead. Yeah. Do you have ofukuro no aji?
I do. So my mom used to make homemade pizza.
Nice.
And the way she would make it is, we'd make the dough from scratch, obviously. But she would put the tomato sauce, meat, and cheese, and that's it. And for some reason, that was the most delicious pizza I've ever had.
Wow.
And it was always like thin crust.
Simple is best.
Oh, yeah. And so every time I go home, I'm thinking like, should I ask her to make homemade pizza? Or like shepherd's pie is another one of her specialties. She's very good at shepherd's pie. Biscuits and gravy is my dad's cooking. My dad asked me this past week when I visited him, he was like, well, I'm thinking to cook. What do you want? And I said, biscuits and gravy. It's always the best biscuits and gravy ever. Because he makes the biscuits from scratch.
Wow.
But yeah, I'd say homemade pizza and shepherd's pie. Oh, she also makes really good spaghetti.
Huh.
So.
What kind of spaghetti did you like?
This is spaghetti with meat and meat sauce.
Oh, okay.
Like you said, simple is best.
Okay.
So we have the noodles, we put meat sauce in there, and we put hamburger in there. And then we put a bunch of Parmesan cheese.
I see.
Yeah.
My favorite pasta from my mom's cooking was the pepperoncino and vongole bianco.
Say it one more time.
Pepperoncino and vongole bianco.
Okay. So,
The clam.
like the white powder? Or white sauce, I mean?
No, it's clam pepperoncino with a clam in it, kind of.
Okay. I see.
But pepperoncino, I love her pepperoncino, but like, for me, it's just one of the simplest pasta, right? The pepperoncino only has oil and salt and probably red chili
I see.
to start with, and then maybe a little bit of black pepper, but it tasted really good.
So, is there pepperoncini in there?
No, you're talking about the pepper, right? No, it's very simple. It's the most simplest pasta ever, I think.
Oh, okay.
So I think it might have like a parsley on top, but you need a spaghetti, salt, olive oil, garlic, that's what I was missing, and chili peppers and parsley on top at the end.
That sounds delicious. Simple but delicious.
Yeah, but I mean, I like it, so I try to make it a lot. I eat pasta a lot because I grew up with pasta a lot, but that's a hard thing to make for me because it's too simple. It's always not perfect,
You have unusually high standards for your own pasta.
I don't think so, but
I think so.
I don't think so, but like I am very high expectation for the pastas. Like
al dente?
Yeah, it has to be al dente for me because like I was told what is al dente since I was kindergarten. So there was one time my mom and like her friends from the Italian cooking class. So they all know about Italian cooking. They were learning in the class, right? So they were friends.
Yeah.
And then I went with them for lunch, and some of us were having pasta, so it's me. And then when it came, I started eating, and then my mom was like looking at me, and how is it? And then I was like, I don't think it's al dente, because it was cooked a little longer. And then she was like, what you talking? And then, but the other, friends, my mom's friends, also ate, and then like, yeah, I can tell that too. So Saya's right. I was really annoying kid, I think. I wasn't a cute kind of.
Just really smart.
Not smart, it's just picky.
Well, so my word is kind of silly.
Yeah.
And it's called flibberty gibbet.
Flibberty gibbet.
Yeah.
It sounds like a magic word. Like a magical word.
Wish.
Like a spells, I mean.
So do you remember your colleague from Oregon?
Okay.
Who would talk so much?
Yeah, I do.
He's a flibberty gibbet.
Oh, so there is a word for him.
So a flibberty gibbet is a frivolous, flighty, or excessively talkative person.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think, from my experience with him, my very short experience with him,
Yeah.
I don't think he's frivolous or flighty, but he is extremely excessively talkative.
Right. So we can use that word.
I think so, because it says or excessively talkative.
Right.
So he's definitely excessively talkative. So yeah.
Yeah.
Flibberty Gibbet.
Flippity gibbet.
I think both of us are the opposite of Flibberty Gibbet.
I hope so.
are very quiet people, I think.
Yeah, we talk in the podcast though.
Yeah, we talk in the podcast, we talk to each other, but when we're in public, at least
yeah.
I find it hard to like strike up conversation in public. Like even with, for example, if you and I went out to a really busy restaurant, I would find it hard to talk to you even. Just because it's like really busy and really like hard to think. And But the phrase, not phrase, but the word flibberty gibbet comes from the Middle English word for flappergebbet, meaning gossip or chatterer. It's a word of onomatopoeic origin created from sounds that were intended to represent meaningless chatter.
That's so funny, and that's like so ironic word. Wow, flibberty gibbet.
Yes, flibberty gibbet.
I think that's my favorite word so far.
Flibberty gibbet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I liked, from you, I liked when we started talking about Obon Festival. That was very interesting to me.
Yeah, good.
Speaking of interesting, I have a very good topic for you. So let's go on to the topic of the day.
Sounds good.
Okay, so my topic touches on my field of expertise a little bit.
Oh.
Actually, a lot of it.
Whoa, okay.
And the reason I chose this topic today is because I've been dealing with a lot of music stuff recently and planning.
Your life is dealing with music.
Yeah, but right now I'm doing a lot of like concert planning and a lot of planning for my concerts.
Oh.
So my pianist friend and I, we are doing recitals every year around the East Coast, and we were doing some concert planning today.
Oh, I didn't know. That's great.
Like pieces and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my favorite topic of music, and that is the emergence of music from the classical era.
Okay.
Like, let's say, Mozart and Haydn, to the Romantic era. You know, composers like Brahms and Wagner, and like big sound music like that. Okay? So, do you know the word chamber music?
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I cannot explain it.
What does it sound like to you?
It's like violin, viola, like kind of quartet, maybe?
I'm thinking more in terms of the meaning of chamber.
Well, the first thing I came up with the word chamber is chamber of secret.
So it's music written specifically for Harry Potter and the reemergence of Lord Voldemort. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No. So chambers is another word for like bedroom or private rooms.
Yeah, I know that.
You know, back in the day.
Yeah.
And you know, chamber music was specifically for like events or like rich people or like courts and kings and queens and fancy things, right? So at the beginning of the podcast, we're like, "Do you have any Grey Poupon?"
Yeah.
That would be chamber music right there.
I see. Just a fancy kind of music.
When we think of chamber music today, chamber music's not played in my bedroom. I wish it was, but it's not.
Right.
So how did we get from point A to point B? That's a hypothetical question. After the sacred era of music, let's say, you know, 14, 15, 1600s, music started moving away from strictly sacred and becoming more of like things for culture. So you would have, you know, music in everyday court life. So Bach was both a religious composer, Johann Sebastian Bach was a religious composer, but he also worked in the court as a court composer. And so Mozart and Haydn, who were later than Bach, so Bach died in the year 1750.
Okay.
And the year 1750 was the start of what's called the classical era. Okay, and that's what we typically think of as, you know, fancy music. You know, so if you hear That's classical music.
I see.
You know, very fancy, very posh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The music that I'm thinking to start the podcast with to play over our fancy voices. That's also that's early classical, but that's classical nonetheless. That's quintessential classical music. Now, Mozart, when we say classical music, people think of Mozart or Haydn.
Okay.
But what a lot of people don't know is that Haydn kind of embraced classical music in its current form and kind of expanded upon classical music in a way that is what classical music was meant to be. So classical music is supposed to be formulaic. Is supposed to be like, you know, if you think of classical architecture, everything is very even, very symmetrical, very formulaic, very calculated. It's the same thing in music. You know, Haydn took that and maximized what he could out of true classical music. And he did expand upon it and play around with it, but that's too much detail to get into right now. All we need to know is that Haydn took what classical music was meant to be and made it the most it could be. Now, Mozart is kind of Haydn's contemporary, so a lot of people confuse Mozart and Haydn's music.
Okay.
Because they sound very similar. Mozart was a little bit more daring with his music later on in life.
Okay.
And it took what Haydn mastered and expanded upon that, changed things around, and set the stage for what Beethoven did to music. So my focus is mainly on Beethoven's contribution to chamber music. I was just kind of setting the stage for that.
Oh, okay. Could you tell me? So in my image, Haydn was kind of an old guy, and like Mozart is called like a godchild or whatever. Like Mozart was very talented when he was really young.
Yeah, that's called a child prodigy.
Yeah. So I was just wondering what the timelines when the Haydn lived and the Mozart lived and Beethoven lived.
So Haydn is only 24 years older than Mozart.
Oh, okay.
So Bach lived from 1685 to 1750. And then Haydn was next in line. He was 1732 through 1809.
Okay.
And Mozart was 1756 to 1791. So Mozart was born after Haydn and died before Haydn died.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
But Haydn was kind of he was after Bach, before Mozart, but, you know, encompassed Mozart's life.
I see.
Yeah.
When the Beethoven comes in.
Beethoven was actually a student of Haydn. So Beethoven was born in 1770 and died in 1827.
I see.
So this brings me to Beethoven's life, musical life, I should say. So if you listen to music written by Beethoven that's early, it sounds a lot like Haydn and Mozart. But as you get to the end of his life, it sounds more like Brahms. There's a reason for that, because Brahms, who is later than all of those, Brahms is Romantic era, a completely different era of music. Brahms was heavily inspired by Beethoven.
I see.
So a lot of his music sounds like Beethoven's. Now, my focus... I need to not get carried away, because my focus is mainly on Beethoven's contribution to chamber music.
Okay.
So chamber music in Haydn, Mozart, you know, even Bach's time was like court stuff, you know, made for big events. And the concert stage was saved for things like symphonies and operas and, you know, big scale things like that. Well, Beethoven... You know, Beethoven's quartets consistently, like as he gets older, they get longer and more large scale. And, you know, you start seeing a lot of symphonic techniques used in his quartets. And that is because Beethoven took the quartet from chamber music and made it to be performed on stage. So it's basically symphonizing the string quartet.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
But I feel like Beethoven's symphonies are very famous.
Yes.
But I don't know if I've heard a quartet by Beethoven.
Right. So Beethoven's symphonies are very famous, specifically number 5 and number 9.
Definitely, yeah.
But the reason why musicians focus on his string quartets is because he wrote 16 string quartets throughout his whole life.
Wow.
They are divided up into opus numbers. There's opus 18.
Yeah.
There are 6 opus 18 string quartets. So opus 18 number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay?
I thought opus is a way to number.
It's a way to number either individual pieces or groups of pieces. So these quartets are considered to be part of one work that is opus 18. Okay? The next string quartets are his opus 59 quartets, and there are 3 of them. Those are called the Razumovsky quartets because those were dedicated to Razumovsky, who was a royal at the time. Okay. And then there was the Opus 74 quartet. One quartet. The rest of them are single quartets. There's the Opus 74, Opus 95, Opus 127, Opus 130, Opus 131, Opus 132, Opus 135, and a single movement string quartet that was made to be the last movement of an already written quartet, but people hated it. So he made it a standalone work and replaced it with another string quartet movement that ended the piece better. But it's called the Grosse Fugue, and that's Opus 133. Okay. So that's just information. Do what you will with that.
Good. I'm glad to hear there's no test.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I'm kind of a nerd of these. I took a graduate level course as an undergrad on these. Like, I was very, very into this sort of thing. But his string quartets, the reason why they're so important to us musicians is because the string quartets are divided up very cleanly between his 3 stages of life. Okay. So typically with composers, you have an early period and a late period in your music, and it's reflected in how you compose. Okay. Beethoven has 3. There's the early period, the middle period, and the late period. And that is brought on because of his loss of hearing.
Oh.
So his early period is very classical, very Haydn, very Mozart sound. Okay. And then his middle period is when he started losing his hearing. So there was a lot of like doom and a lot of fear and a lot of hatred and a lot of sadness in his music. So if you think about his Symphony Number 5. Yeah. That rhythmic figure, the ba 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 ba, is like they call it the fate knocking at the door.
Yeah,
so it's supposed to be
I learned that in the middle school or no junior high school
that's cool.
music class.
So it's supposed to be like knocking, like
right,
you know, and that rhythmic motive, the ba 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 ba, is found throughout all movements of his Fifth Symphony, as well as other pieces. And the key of the Fifth Symphony, C minor, that's his tragic key signature. And then Triumph is E flat major. Or no, that's his heroic. So in his middle period, you'll see C minor as his tragic and E flat major as his heroic. Okay? So his Fifth Symphony is called Tragedy to Triumph, later named Tragedy to Triumph by people who understood that the first movement is the fate knocking at the door, and the last movement is his emergence and his triumph over all of that. So I would encourage all of our listeners to go listen to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony if you have not. It's very famous. You'll recognize the theme, but it's a journey throughout 4 movements, and it's just amazing how he goes from this tragic first movement to his triumphant last movement. And you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. Let us know. Also, email us. Let us know if you did listen to it and what you found, because I'm very passionate about this. But Beethoven's string quartets are really reflective of each of his 3 periods of life.
I see.
So each of his stages of life gets progressively longer in quartet form. So his early quartets are like, they can be like 20 minutes long or whatever, but his quartets later on in life can be like closer to an hour, like 45 minutes or whatever.
Wow, that's really long.
Yeah. And it gets really crazy because the Grosse Fugue is one of the last quartet pieces he wrote, if not the last. I don't remember which one is the last, but it was supposed to be the last movement of his last string quartet. But he wrote that later on in life, and you could see where his mind kind of went crazy a little bit. You remember a couple weeks ago we learned the word dulcet? Maybe it was last week, I don't remember. It's not dulcet. It's a cacophony. So let me show that to you just so you have.
Yeah.
So we'll be listening to the Grosse Fuge by Beethoven, and I encourage our listeners to listen to this too. So the first piece we'll listen to is Beethoven's Opus 18 No. 2 for comparison. Okay, describe that.
That sounded very fun chamber music. I would believe if it's by Mozart or Haydn.
Now here's the Grosse Fuge by Beethoven, and listen to the comparison. Describe that.
That was definitely a Beethoven.
Yeah, it was angry.
Like starting from like another kind of fate that he was dealing with, like, you know, the knocking sound of the fate kind of.
Yeah, this was like less the knocking of fate and more of like death is imminent.
Yeah.
You know, like he was later on in years, he wasn't happy. He couldn't hear. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone hated this. Like there was a riot after the performance of this. And people like requested, because this ended his last string quartet originally. Just a public service announcement. I did say last string quartet. That is not true. The Grosse Fuge was supposed to end the Opus 130 string quartet number 13 in B-flat major. And his last string quartet is Opus 135 in F major. But the Grosse Fuge was supposed to end Opus 130. Thank you.
Oh.
And people hated it and changed it to this. This is so different.
Yeah, did he just bring all of the note to the major instead of minor? Kind of.
It almost sounds like that, you know? But
yeah.
Anyway, that's a little brief history on Beethoven's contribution to music, as you know, mainly chamber music. But you know, I've been thinking about quartets and programming and stuff like that, and this is just kind of on my mind.
Yeah, that's very interesting and educational.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I hope I explained it well for our listeners who may not have this musical background.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have musical background, but I understand.
Good. I'm glad that you said that. Let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to email us at otsumamiparty@gmail.com. And
also check out our Instagram and follow and like.
Yeah.
So that you can know when the episode is up. The new episode is up.
Our Instagram is otsumami_party_podcast. So go check us out, email us, and let us know what you think. I think it's about time we get some sleep.
That sounds about right.
Guys, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, guys.
And I look forward to our episode next week. All right.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to our podcast. We get our publicity mainly from word of mouth, so make sure to tell your friends about us. If you have something you would like us to talk about, or just want to say hi, you can send an email to otsumamiparty@gmail.com. That is OTSUMAMIPARTY podcast@gmail.com. And please sign the email with the unique username.
Please let us know what you think of the podcast and where you are tuning in from as well. And we may mention it in our next episode. Tune in next week.
See ya.